Hey there, I'm Chief Meteorologist Rachel Garceau with this First Alert Weather Plus forecast. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, we'll start with what's on the way over the next several days. So heat gets seasonable from Thursday through the weekend. Of course, we did have a couple of scorching days during the work week and the new school year. That's how we kick things off. But that heat gets a little more bearable over the next several days. Over the weekend, in fact, possibly as early as Thursday or Friday, some spotty showers and storms could pop into some areas. Not seeing any chance of rain in the Treasure Valley, so sunshine will play on repeat across the Snake Plain, and that is good news if you're a stargazer. That Perseid meteor shower, it did reach its peak earlier this week, overnight on the 12th to the 13th, but the Perseid meteor shower is on display until about August 23rd or so. So if you're willing to stay up late or get up really early, the wee hours of the morning, you can spot up to 100 meteors an hour with this meteor shower every year. However, this year, our moon is about 86% illuminated, so it does make those meteors a little bit harder to spot. But if you're patient, you settle back, keep an eye on the sky, get as far away from city lights as you can, you may be able to catch some of those meteors over the next several days. All right, speaking of other occurrences this week, we did tack on our 5th triple-digit day of the season of the year in Boise. So on August 12th, we hit about 102 degrees in the Boise area. That, of course, was the hottest day in Boise, at least, of the last couple of weeks. Wednesday did end up being a triple-digit day in some spots, not in Boise. While we were close, not quite there. So for now, that tally will stay at 5 for the foreseeable future. Quite a change from last year when we racked up 20 days at or above the century mark, the majority of which were in July. And as we look at what's coming our way, temp trend, at least for the next 5 days, nowhere near the triple digits. In fact, we settle into pretty seasonable territory. Remember, 92 degrees in Boise is normal for the middle of August. Most of our afternoons will be right about there. I know we're all looking at Saturday, that nice comfy cool down to the upper 80s. Doesn't last long. We're a bit warmer by early next week. But as we talk about the possibility of any rain coming our way for the Treasure Valley, at least at the time of this recording, lots of goose eggs. I'm not seeing any possibility. The best chance maybe south of Boise and west of Boise could be on Sunday. And as we look at McCall's precipitation outlook for the next several days, we see those chances spike a bit. But even on Sunday in our mountain locations, still maybe a 15 to 20% chance we will see a spot shower or two, maybe hear a couple rumbles of thunder. I know in the McCall area, of course, earlier this week, the rock fire was sparked by lightning, and so we don't want thunderstorms. We certainly would take the rain, but we don't need the lightning with as dry and hot as it has been. So we will see how that shakes out over the coming weekend. Here's that big picture look. So we have monsoon moisture that has begun creeping its way around a ridge of high pressure. That's what triggered a couple of isolated storms in far southern Idaho along the Idaho-Nevada border. On Wednesday afternoon, a few more again will pop in on Thursday, possibly into Friday. This system will skirt by to our north, not going to have much of an impact except helping suppress that ridge a bit. That's what's allowing our temperatures to move into more comfortable territory for the end of the work week. Here's a system that's coming in and will knock our temperatures down a little bit further over the weekend, but as we saw, not a huge change. We go from the low 90s on Thursday to the upper 80s on Saturday. And here's why that system won't have much of an impact. We just have that ridge of high pressure that's going to very stubbornly start to rebuild. So I'll move our upper level pattern Futurecast here into the weekend, Saturday into Sunday. Here's that system. You can see it's trying to make an approach. It will send a very weak cold front our way on Saturday. It will also help boost our moisture. So that's kind of good news. Humidity levels won't be quite as low. So fire danger goes down just a bit when we have things that are just a little bit more moist in the atmosphere. But I don't know that we will see measurable rain, as that system won't be able to really make its way in because high pressure is going to start rebuilding on Monday, and that will take our temperatures back into hotter territory. It will keep us mostly sunny and dry across southern Idaho. So again, this system has the potential for triggering a couple of isolated showers and storms, but mostly over the higher elevations of central Idaho and over far southern Idaho. So not so much in the Treasure Valley. So let's talk about temperatures across the region for the next several days. We talked about low 90s in the Boise area on Thursday. Nice and cool on Thursday afternoon in the Pacific Northwest. Places like Seattle and Portland in the 70s and 80s. What a change from the near triple digits that Portland endured earlier this week. There were extreme heat warnings in place for the Portland area and the I-5 corridor earlier. And then it gets downright cool. By Friday, we're seeing highs topping off in just the upper 60s for Seattle and Portland, while we sit at 91 degrees in Boise to wrap up the weekend. Looking at the start of the weekend, temperatures rebound a bit bit for places like Seattle and Portland into the 70s. Medford at 85 degrees, nice and comfy. We're in the upper 80s to start our work week. Upper 70s in McCall, 77 up in Lewiston. So really comfortable for the middle of August. But those temperatures do rebound as that high pressure early next week starts to take over again. All right, 7-day outlook for the mountains. We talked about the possibility of a couple of showers and storms over the weekend. Definitely we'll see some clouds coming in. That's a good indication of some moisture in the atmosphere. Again, it'll be hit or miss, kind of the haves and the have-nots as far as any unsettled weather goes. Temperatures take a bit of a dip in the mountains down into the upper 70s to wrap up the weekend, but right back to those mid-80s with sunshine by early next week. So really some lovely conditions in the higher elevations. 7-day outlook for the Twin Falls area. I don't even know if we'll see clouds overhead. Maybe over the weekend we might have to change some of these icons to mostly sunny, but looks like sunshine really is the name of the game for the Twin Falls area. Temperatures barely budge for the next week. We're talking maybe a 2 to 3 degree deviation in temperatures every single day. So upper 80s to around 90 degrees. That's the name of the game for Twin Falls. So if you don't like the weather today or tomorrow, you're going to be waiting a while for it to change. It doesn't look like any big changes coming in for south central Idaho for quite some time. And same story for the Boise area. We see those slight fluctuations in day-to-day temperatures, but really that's about it. We might have some breezy winds on Saturday, maybe a few clouds coming in over the weekend, but all in all, a very quiet weather outlook. Not bad for that first week of school as far as that sunshine goes. Make sure if you are headed outdoors, of course, for any extended amount of time, if sports practices have kicked off for your kiddos, make sure you slather on that sunscreen and encourage them to drink a lot of water with the heat and the sunshine. Thanks so much for tuning in to this First Alert Weather Plus forecast. We'll catch you next time.